We're going to go ahead and take a look at some other college football games, Coach. Just kind of make our way around the conference championship games. They have again a limited number of games, similar to how we're in semifinal round. We have Oregon taking on Washington, and I know which way you're going in this, because you've been saying it for weeks. You've said that you felt Oregon has been a better team down the stretch, and they've improved. They are, I think, it's 9.5-point favorites in this matchup, and it's no question why. Washington's played a lot of tight games. Oregon played that first game on the road. And right now it does appear like Oregon is the better overall well-rounded football team.
I'm going to say this, Jason. I think that Pac-12 has got a lot of good teams, and I think that Pac-12 was better than the SEC overall this year. I think Oregon State had a good football team. Washington State was not a bad football team. I thought the Pac-12 put some good teams on the field. You had Arizona out there. That's really a top 25 team. So they had some good teams in the Pac-12, and that's why at first I was on Washington bandwagon early in the year, but after watching the Oregon and the Washington game, I'm now switched, and I think Oregon's got better talent. They got a real good running back. They now developed a real good defense that they didn't have before. Bo Nix is an experienced guy, and he's playing lights out. And naturally, he's up for the Heisman. And he's going to get a lot of press because that press out there in the far west is, we don't see much about it because they're 2 hours behind us, and so we have to wait to see their scores the next day. But I really think the Pac-12 is really a better conference right now than the Big Ten and the SEC. So I look for Oregon. I hope that they're one of the 4 teams that gets there. I look for them to defeat Washington. And can you imagine this? They're lower seed by all the other polls. They're lower seed, but yet they're 9.5, 10-point favorite in Vegas.
Yeah, and that can change at the drop of a hat, Coach. I've already discussed the problem I have with the committee. It's no fault of their own, but just they don't answer to anybody, and they can legitimately change their rankings. They could rank Oregon number 1 next week if they wanted to. They could rank Tulane number 1 next week if they want to. There's no real rhyme or reason to how they choose their teams legitimately every week. But looking at our next matchup, we have Texas taking on Oklahoma State. Texas right now is in a very odd predicament. They only have 1 loss on the year. It's an Oklahoma team that kind of fell by the wayside as the season went on. But they have that win over Alabama. So the question comes into play, the big what-if scenario, right? What if Texas wins and Alabama wins, and now you're in that situation?
Well, I think that's going to be an interesting scenario, see how that works out. I think, Texas is going to win the game against Oklahoma. Oklahoma State has the issue stopping people. Texas personnel is just super, and a lot of people are already pushing for them to be in the top 4, even with 1 loss right now. And I wouldn't think that's bad. Really, I think that you want the best team. But remember, they left out Alabama last year, and the odds maker said Alabama would have been favored against any of those 4. So who knows? But it'll be a good game. Oklahoma State on their 10-point underdog also. They'll compete. And you don't see, at this particular time of year, you don't see big upsets like that. And I don't know why, but you don't see big upsets. So look for Texas to win it.
Yeah, and in our next matchup, Coach, we have Georgia taking on Alabama. It's a 6-point spread, as according to the website I'm looking at right now. Of course, it's a little early in the week, but Coach, this feels like a typical Alabama script where they play Auburn in a game where Auburn is really not that great. They come into the game really jacked up. Bama finds a way to come back late, and you go into the championship game and think, well, Georgia should run them out the stadium. Well, there's a reason it's a 6-point spread. I think Alabama has a very legitimate shot to win this ball game because they have nothing to lose at this point, and Georgia does have a lot to play for, although we have seen Georgia improve down the stretch.
I can't believe that Auburn lost this game. I mean, there had to be a lot of soul searching in that office that Sunday morning about that last play. 4th down, and the last play of the game, and 31, the ball from the 31-yard line, and you throw a touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone. I mean, they just used a minimum rush. They used a 2-man rush. They actually dropped the guy off in a spy situation. Why would you need a spy? The guy he's not going to run for 31 yards and beat you. But I didn't understand. I know Auburn is kicking themselves in the fancy because they had the game won, and they outplayed Alabama the entire game. I don't look for Alabama to win the game. I think Georgia will win the game. I think Georgia's better. This is not Alabama's year. They struggled against South Florida. They struggled against some other people. I look for Georgia to win the game, maybe even by 2 scores.
Thanks, Coach. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Coach. Even when it was fourth and a mile or whatever late in the game, I said, "Look, I've seen this kind of stuff from Alabama before, and somehow they always seem to be on the right side of it." But in our next game, we have Michigan taking on Iowa. 23-point spread in favor of Michigan, and I would take that. I would take Michigan with that spread. I don't. I think Iowa. They do not have an offense. Despite the changes that they claimed they were going to make, they haven't been able to consistently score, and there's a reason why they are moving on from their offensive coordinator. They can't score.
They're really good on defense. They're sound on defense. They don't have great personnel, but my God, they're sound on defense. They still run 3 tight end offense and stuff like that to slow the game down. They're going to try to shrink it. They know they can't run. They can't. They can't play with Michigan. They know that. So they got to try to shrink it, get the game into the second half to still be around. But, it's a reach for them to think that they can win. Now, can they beat the spread? They probably could because of their style of offense. But if they can put up 2 scores, if they can get to 14, they can give Michigan trouble. But I don't know if they can get to 14.
Thanks, Coach. In our next game, we have Louisville taking on Florida State. Louisville dropping a rivalry game to Kentucky just last week. But Florida State is without Jordan Travis. How much is that going to play a factor in this game? We know Louisville has kind of been the scrappy underdog story. They took a loss to Pitt earlier in the season, and, of course, they lose to their rival. Does Louisville have a legitimate shot to win this ballgame?
But I don't think Louisville is going to play with them. I really think that this game is going to go as advertised. I think Louisville is, they play pretty good defense. I will say that. But I don't think they're going to win the game, even though they have a backup quarterback for Florida State. And but he's going to have time now to actually work and get all the reps in practice. And Florida State's defense is just really, really good themselves. They got some players that the guy that guy on the outside is really special. And Florida State's got a lot of team speed, and they're hungry. They're kind of ticked off about not being mentioned in the Final Four all year long. They actually dropped out of it. But if they're undefeated, they got to put them in there.